is Rick Smooth. I am here with Alan Fenstermaker, and I think today what we could do is we could focus completely on YouTube shoot interviews and the influence and impact that they've had on the wrestling business. And I want to start off by talking about Jim Cornette for a second, and then we're going to get into Eric Bischoff.
Okay.
Jim Cornette has definitely paved the way with all this YouTube shoot stuff. He's taking it to another level, I should say. He posts these real long shoots, and he's full of knowledge, and he's not afraid to say, this shit sucks, or why are we doing this, or, whatever he believes is not good for the business, he's going to talk about it. I think that that's very important, especially with watching what's going on now with, we'll call it the quarantine era of WWE and AEW. Just kind of seems like, that Cornette's right with pretty much everything he's been saying. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
I know. All I know is Jim Cornette's tearing a lot of people apart and all too. Which some people like him or not. He is a very knowledgeable individual about the wrestling business and everything too, and just the wealth of knowledge that he has. And I know, I remember, Rick, both you and I met him at MLW about a year ago. He seemed pretty cool, and just unfortunately we couldn't do an interview with him because after he got done doing commentary all night, his voice was pretty much shot. But heck, he does have a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, he sure does, and he does tear apart things, but his reason for doing so is that he believes that the wrestling business has gone so far in one direction that it needs to be restarted. And the interesting thing about that is we might be seeing that happening not only in wrestling but in the world as well. And the wrestling stuff is now a little more intertwined with the world stuff because Vince is more involved in that kind of stuff now. So it's really, really kind of interesting to see it trickle down and the way that it has. I know we live in the city of Philadelphia. I saw it trickle down about a decade ago, and the city of Philadelphia hasn't been the same since. But after what's transpired over these last couple of days, it's really interesting to kind of see, where things are really at, because a lot of the stuff that's been going on in the Philly area, it can be linked back to the police. So that's what's being protested right now in the city is police brutality. But with that being said, I want to jump over now to Eric Bischoff because Eric Bischoff right now is on a tear himself with YouTube shoot interviews with his 83 Weeks podcast. Have you been watching any of that stuff, Alan?
I've been watching a little bit, but it's funny, 83 Weeks, how he got the name, because I remember, before you were saying about how, WCW kicked WWF's ass, 83 weeks in a row, so, I have a feeling that's a pun kind of on that, too, because, even back in there was a time when WCW was kicking WWF's ass, and just how Eric Bischoff came up with that, because Eric Bischoff was a big reason that they were beating WWF's ass. And I remember how it was at a point where Eric Bischoff was this was before when Raw was actually taped on Monday nights. They were actually Bischoff was giving away Raw results on WCW.
Yeah, I remember that. Eric, so here's the thing, right? So for all the young people out there that might listen to this podcast, you got to understand something. WCW almost won that war many times. It wasn't until the very end that WWE pulled out that victory, over the last year and a half or so. Because for a long time, WCW was completely destroying what the WWF product was at that time.
Wow, yeah, I remember that.
But the thing is with the Bischoff shoots is he's really good at being able to zoom in, like we say with RF video sometimes, being able to really zoom in on a certain either show or a certain time period and be able to discuss those things so that the listeners really get to learn something. I think Eric Bischoff, his shoot interviews are highly underrated. It's funny because he's talking about some new sex drug or some shit that he's all pumped up about or whatever on his on his podcast. And Eric, if you're out there listening, man, I just want you to know something, man. If you're having problems in your your romantic life, man. I don't know if the podcast is really the place for that, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, and I know like earlier Bischoff was earlier last year Bischoff was hired with WWE as a one of the producers for SmackDown, but then as we found out like back in like October, Bischoff was fired from WWE, and Bruce Pritchard was put in charge of SmackDown instead.
Right. Yeah, we remember that, and that was one of the quickest things. That was one of the quickies in pro wrestling. But it was weird because I was actually kind of starting to turn around for the product when he was involved, and I know Heyman has stuck around, but it's hard to even tell what's going on with it anymore. I just prefer to not even watch it than to watch it and get upset about it.
Yeah, I hear you.
Cause you know what it is? It's just we love this shit so much, man. We love what once was not only the WWF but pro wrestling, and to see what it's become it's very heartbreaking, man. But we push forward, man. We keep trying to be positive about it. We try not to bring the whole thing down. But what might need to happen is what Cornette's saying, which is a total reset of it all. I don't know, man. It's hard to say this kind of shit because it's like, we don't want to upset the workers and we don't want to upset the promoters and all the people that might throw us money one day. But at the same time, we got to be honest about this stuff. And I would say that, there's going to be new inspiration that comes, hopefully throughout the whole world of whether it be, music, pro wrestling, sports, or movies, or something that will hopefully come along and just change this whole era and get it out, get this whole era back on track. And I think Cornette's the closest one to figuring out how to do that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, same here, because I know like by him tearing things apart, like he's actually like planning the wrestling business for a revolution or for a restructuring, because like I remember last year Paul Heyman over at the arena over in Philly, he spoke in the ring, and this was at Evolve Wrestling, and Paul Heyman delivered that speech that wrestling must evolve, and that's what
it's so true.
That's what this is all doing right now. This is all part of it evolving.
It's so true, and it's words to live by, man. It's one of those things like Paul Heyman nailed it right on the head, as he always does, with his genius of being able to wrap his head around all this stuff. And this is the tough part, because wrestling is just wrestling. As much as I love wrestling, and it is my life, to a certain degree, the country might need to actually hear hear this same message, you know what I mean? Because if it does collapse and, we have to hit the reset button and start over again, what exactly does that mean? What exactly is that? What exactly would we have to do to plan for something new? These are all questions that need to be talked about and stuff like that now before something does happen. And, it's almost like this. It's like if America's on its last run, which I know some people will say it's not, but let's just say, what if, the WWE is kind of, small potatoes for that compared to that,
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So I don't know, man. At least we know one thing, man. At least we know that Paul Heyman and Vince McMahon are working together. So if Paul Heyman, comes up with a genius idea to either save the WWE or to even save, the fucking country, at least we know that it's in a certain realm where it could actually get to higher ups. And I hate to say this, but higher ups in this situation aren't that high. They're pretty low. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, so but yeah, man. If there's anybody else that we can talk about, who do you see as being a real innovator with the YouTube shoots?
Let's see. I'd probably say Hannibal.
Yeah, Hannibal's got some shit,
Yeah, Hannibal's like, and I even met him before over at the arena, like down at over at Icons of Wrestling, and I know like he was going around doing his thing, doing shoot interviews along with us there too.
Yeah, yep.
And in fact, I know like a lot of people you saw on Yeah, on Pro Wrestling Archives shoot interviews. Yeah, Hannibal did a shoot interview with the same with a lot of the same folks. But it's cool. It's cool and all though too because how like he delves in a different direction with asking them questions. So even though it's the same person, it's still can be a different interview because that person can be doing different stuff too.
Yep, I like Conan and Disco Inferno's podcast too. I don't listen to it as much as the other guys, but I do like what they're doing. You know, just giving a different perspective. You know, and Conan and Disco are different kinds of people, even though they have this weird common ground.
Yeah.
That one Disco Inferno thing that he did at the arena, when we saw him when he had like 10 girls beating him up, that was one of the best planned out wrestling, angles that I've seen in at least, 10 years,
Yeah, I hear you.
Remember that, man? With Tessa and all them?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
That was crazy, dude.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is like, a cat like Disco, who's, definitely very underrated, can get in there and pull something off like that. Maybe these guys from that era are all, somewhat underrated and need to be brought back. If these millennial guys or whoever these guys are, aren't cutting it, I think that, maybe it's time to bring back some of the people that, need to come back,
Yeah, that'll be nice if some of these guys came back. That would definitely do.
I think that's the only thing I can think of that could actually, help. Because there are younger guys that are coming through that are real good. Like we've seen the lineages, and we've seen that firsthand in ECWA and that South Philly gym we were at. But still, okay, like what makes all this stuff so interesting was the guys that were coming through in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. These were guys that chose pro wrestling as their profession and were able to bring their flair from their territory or their city into, this kind of presentation, you know what I mean? So it's a combination of that generation and a combination of all the new stuff that needs to be utilized properly and put in the right place. Like if you're creating a team, you don't just have anybody batting first. You don't just have anybody batting third or just anybody batting fourth or fifth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So people have to find their positions. That's what I see. And AEW is, trying out new ideas, and they're a new company, and they're getting there. But with WWE, it's like these guys are the best to ever do it when it comes to entertainment. But the shit's not entertaining anymore. It's not entertaining, and it's not creative, and it's bullshit, man. So I mean, something's got to come along and make it all click. You know what I mean? Make it all come together.
So we got to get back to the old school with it because the old school is like when everything was at its best and all too.
I agree, but here's the problem with that is with the old school, a lot of guys have passed on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with
for the old school, is like probably gonna take some of the second and third generation guys, like you were saying, like the New Heart Foundation with Davey Boy Jr. and Roman Jr. Because
I agree, as in those guys still have something special, but I think mixing it in with the old school guys that are still around, like, I don't know, maybe some guys got to come out of retirement or something like that, I don't know, but it's kind of like when a lot of people have transitioned, and passed on, they have to be honored, they have to be remembered, but then again, they also have to, how do I say it? Like, there has to be a void filled. Like, let's say somebody's favorite band lead singer passes away or something like that, somebody's going to fill in that void just so that the songs live on or the music lives on or something like that. So something like that needs to happen when it comes to some of these older guys that are no longer with us. It's been frustrating to see people like Curt Hennig's kid, not get utilized properly by WWE and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I don't know what to say about that because I'm not there, but it's not... It doesn't make me feel good, but then again, I'm not saying anything about Vince because I'm sure Vince would want it to work out with Curt Hennig's kid too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because Kurt Hennig is like is a legend in the business and all too. Like
Kurt Hennig has got to be probably the greatest wrestler to ever do it, and he was my favorite growing up. So at the same time, you know, I know Vince loved him because Vince put him in that position.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. You know, maybe there's more to it than I understand. I don't know.
Yeah.
But. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that concludes the podcast today on Back on the Road, and thank you all for listening. We're having a blast doing this shit. We hope you guys like it, and we just want to say thank you from everybody at Back on the Road.
Awesome. Good night.